Hey guys, today I wanted to do a video on health OCD and then some common compulsions as well as mental compulsions and then fears related to it. If you can just make sure you like and subscribe down at the bottom, leave any comments or questions, maybe any videos you'd like me to do in the future. Now, I would say some of the most common health OCD compulsions are, first one is avoiding types of food, usually for fear of being allergic to it. Or feeling a certain way if you eat in a certain type of food. That was a really big one for me. I would actually eat certain foods and then my stomach would actually hurt. I would have more mucus, for example, if I had more milk or dairy products. If I ate certain peppers, I would have, or tomatoes, it would make me have diarrhea or something. And a lot, it's pretty much all in my head. I felt like I had gas, just a lot of things with food. And it was, when I really didn't care about that stuff anymore and really broke down the irrational fears of those things. Now I pretty much eat whatever I want. I don't have any allergies. I have been tested, The next thing is exercise, compulsively exercising. Usually the compulsive exercise is used to help get rid of fear. Maybe you have some fear of the way you look with health, like being fat, obese, too much body fat, getting a disease, not being healthy, or something being wrong with you because you're not exercising, because exercise is supposed to help with your mental state, your physical state, so on and so forth. Maybe even performance sexually. And then a really, really big compulsion. This was really huge for me. Google searching. Anytime I felt a certain way, thought something, I researched vitamins, researched different things to help me not feel a certain way when it came to my body, or Googled any kind of symptoms I had with the way that I felt, the thoughts that I had, depression, anxiety, trying to solve issues with those things, all through Google. Google's probably one of the biggest ones that I had with health OCD. And then another one is taking things in order to feel better, either mentally or physically, supplements, even medication, self-medicating. Maybe you're using alcohol or weed. Weed is supposed to make you feel better. Psychedelics, not to be, but anything where you're taking something to try to make yourself feel better. I remember I used to have headaches all the time when I thought something was like really wrong. So I would take Advil. It never made it go better, never made it get better. And then once, I was able to break down the worst case scenario of feeling uncomfortable with a headache, what would happen. I don't really get headaches. That used to be a constant feeling in the top of my head. It's not something that's there anymore. The other thing is, I think, internal thermometer, constantly checking how you feel physically or mentally all the time. That would say for the mental compulsion. And this, I think, went with my sensory motor OCD as well, but I was constantly checking how I would feel when I would do anything, eat anything, take anything like that, mentally and physically, constantly checking over and over and over. Or I would say the other really common mental compulsion was trying to compare something to something else. Like if my stomach hurt, or my heart hurt, or my eyes hurt, or my head, or my body, or I had this or that I would compare it to some kind of digestive issue or an allergy or a medical condition, that I had something wrong with me because my anxiety was so high that I needed to take certain things. And it was just I was constantly trying to compare my symptoms to things that I thought that it was, being sick, having a thyroid issue, stuff like that. Another really common compulsion is going to the doctor. I didn't have this one too much, but I remember I had a time where I was going to a doctor consistently. Then I was going to a psychologist consistently, and then I was going to a health specialist consistently. I used to get shots for B vitamins once a week. I got like IVs with vitamins in it, like once a month. I was taking like multiple medications from a doctor, and just trying to constantly find a way to feel better by going to the doctor. And I always sometimes it would help temporarily, but usually it didn't, right? It was just no matter what I thought, I always had this lingering feeling that, I was wrong. It didn't matter how much I would check these answers. Now, I didn't do this one too much, but I know with some people who've had health OCD, it's obviously been a lot worse. Now, why do people have health OCD, right? And this was a pretty big theme for me, but it wasn't one that really took over my life, where it was just constant nonstop. It was just something where there was a lot of compulsions, maybe something that took up a couple hours of my day, and maybe some anxiety a few hours of the day. But all in all, a lot of that was related to just OCD in general. Now, biggest thing, fears, underlining fears with health OCD is a lot of it to me was sensational. The way that I felt, feeling a certain way, that there was something wrong with me, underlining that I had no idea what it was, and at me constantly trying to, search. I was just afraid of feeling a certain way. So for long periods of time. So there was, fear of fear. Fear of having an underlying condition that could possibly make you die or be sick or feel a certain way forever. That to me was a lot of the biggest fears, and that those uncomfortable sensations or those conditions or those sensations would make you be afraid and live a terrible life. So lots of fear of it continuing to be there. But then mostly I would say a lot of it was, fear of something really bad going wrong that possibly killed me. When I had 3 hernias, I had read that, with a hiatal hernia, I believe it's hiatal, for your stomach's in your chest, that you feel like you have a lump in your throat. And I read it online. I Google searched it because I was freaking out. Why am I still in pain? Why am I still uncomfortable after this? And sometimes the surgery can cause this or that. Then all of a sudden, I thought, oh gosh. And then I started constantly thinking about my saliva, swallowing nonstop, 24/7, because I had a lump in my throat. But it was actually anxiety, for example, right? But it was coupled with the sensory motor at that time. Now, for me, how I really got over a lot of that stuff, and I think I talked about it a little bit in my last video, but was really breaking down the fears. The fears are the key. The fears are the thing that drives everything, right? So you've got your fear, and then you got your compulsions, your reassurance, and avoidance behaviors, all that stuff right here. But it really comes down to this, right? And what you really need to do is you need to identify those things. Now, and I've talked about this in other videos, but how can you properly identify these things is when you're having your mental compulsions, your rumination, your internal thermometer, your intrusive thoughts, whatever's happening, that's kind of like the pointer on the map. That's going to tell you what you need to see, right? What you need to work on, what those fears are. So non-compulsively, set a time to look at those fears. One thing I don't necessarily do, but Nick does, he really likes it, is when he would write down those things, when they would come up, and then set aside time later. For me, my approach is more, I rather just be uncomfortable and let it just flare up, and then when it flares up and I'm uncomfortable, I rather just kind of experience it. Maybe it's kind of dumb of me, right? But then when it happens, I'm feeling the full force, blunt of it, and I wait for a time when I'm feeling those things for a while. Then I'll work on them at that time and kind of move through them like that. The biggest thing is, everyone's approach may be slightly different, but the biggest thing is you got to identify them, and then you've got to work through them using REBT. So if you don't know a lot about REBT, make sure that you read How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything by Albert Ellis. And then The Myth of Self-Esteem by Albert Ellis. That's going to help a lot with the unconditional self-acceptance, understanding that you're human and you're pretty much made to eventually die. No matter what you do, Health OCD, you can eat good, sleep good, exercise, never do drugs, have good genetics, you're still going to die. It's going to happen. So anyways, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.